This is quite a long story that covers a period over 8 years in time, with multiple updates, so it's going to be quite a ride. My father-in-law hates me and doesn't want me to marry his daughter. First, some background. We have been in a relationship for 5 years, living together for 4, and this is the best, most satisfying relationship I have had in all my life. My girlfriend works in the healthcare industry, and her kindness towards those in need and less privileged than her is what drew me to ask her out in the first place. In the last 4 years between us, there have been some little fights and only one really big fight, which happened in October 2014. My GF planned a lunch with Carl, her father, which I could sadly not attend because of a work-related emergency. He called me later that night, saying that I didn't show him the respect he deserves and that I am always trying to get out of family events because I don't want to be around him. This is not true, because half of the planning and organizing on his birthday was on me, and it was a big event. In the morning, I informed my GF about his call, but she brushed it off as him being intoxicated. The next weekend, when we went to her parents' place for family dinner, Carl was extremely hostile towards me, but I tried to brush it off. This worked fine, until he started talking about the missed lunch again, to which I apologized again, and said that I would make up for it somehow. To give you some background, every other Sunday is family dinner at her folks' place and I rarely miss it, so I didn't think it was a big deal. By the time the next dinner came around, I bought a bunch of smart wearable accessories for him, as my GF had suggested that he was interested in them. He refused to accept these gifts, however, and when I insisted, he walked out saying he needed some air. I had no clue what was going on, and my GF's mom was mortified, apologizing to me over and over again for Carl's behavior. Confused about this whole situation, I reached out to my GF when we got home from the dinner. I wanted to know if there was something going on which she was not telling me, and if there would be something I could do. At first, she tried to brush it off, but then said that it was my fault for not seeing that her father was not interested in being buddies, and simply wanted my respect, not friendship. This felt so strange to me, as I had never really thought anything else of him than her father. We would just watch sports games together sometimes, and chat about it later, but that was the extent of our social interaction. My GF said that I needed to earn his respect back, to which I replied that I had done nothing wrong in the first place. This is how our big fight started. Now, a few days later, Carl reached out to me informing me that he liked the watch and other accessories, so I guessed at the time that this was his way of declaring a truce between us. After this whole ordeal, I have always been extra careful never to miss any event with him. Last June, my GF's mother passed away, and it was an incredibly difficult time for everyone. I tried to be as supportive towards the whole family as I could, and cut down on my work hours to spend more time with them. My GF and I started cooking the family dinner at his place because she thought it would be better for him to see the house alive with people again, and we made it an every-week event for a while, just to spend more time with him. Multiple times we made an extra effort to host family events, and once we even flew his elder sister over for his birthday. I had really hoped he would warm up to me a little bit, but I guess I was wrong, which brings us to today. I had proposal plans for a while, and when my GF had to leave home for the week on work-related stuff, it felt like an ideal opportunity to plan the whole proposal. I planned to decorate our apartment like a planetarium with stars and planets, and had the idea of writing, "Will you marry me?" in the stars. Before I would start the preparations, I wanted my father-in-law's blessing, however, as I thought he would find this very important, and this would make sure that he would also feel included. So, I planned a lunch with him, and told him how much respect I had for him, and that one day, I wanted to be a good father like he was. So far so good. But when I asked for his blessing for the marriage, he blew up. He was absolutely livid, saying that his daughter deserves a better man, and that he never liked me and had always hoped the relationship would just end. He said all the ass-kissing I was doing last year had showed that I just wanted to appear like a good man to my GF, and that I didn't mean any of that. This really left me speechless, as I was so shocked by his reaction. I was so shocked because this is not how I expected it to go at all. At this point, I just stood up and left him, still spewing hate. I went home, and I'm not sure how to proceed now, or even what to do. Should I inform my girlfriend that her father said no to my proposal? Should I proceed as if nothing has happened? For now, I'm drinking and playing video games. What should I do? Update 1, 2.5 years later. I'm not sure what I will get out of this, but I feel like writing it all down. At this point, I think there's no way to salvage our marriage. I've been in a relationship with my wife for almost 9 years now, and married for 2. Our relationship has been, for the most part, a fulfilling and satisfying one, for the both of us. It may seem that I'm making a self-congratulating post, but we've become better people by virtue of being together. I'm an old-fashioned person, so it was difficult to meet a woman who liked the things I liked, and had the same opinions I had. This all sounds quite sweet, but the unsavory part of our relationship has been my relationship with my father-in-law. My wife and I rarely have disagreements, so most of our major fights we've had were because of her father. I want to be clear here that I do not hate him. I respect the guy. He has sacrificed a lot in his personal life in order to provide for his family, and made sure that my wife was raised with love and care. I used to look up to him in the earlier years of the relationship. When I first started dating his daughter, it took me by surprise how close they were as a family, and I really liked the family events with these picturesque dinners of mild conflicts and contentment. Early on in our relationship, I think I freaked out my wife by how much I enjoyed being at her parents' house. Her mother was a saint of a woman who gave me so much love from the get-go. She would always make sure I was included in the family activities, and often reserved a seat for me at the family dinner right next to her. She really gave me the feeling that I was one of her own. I remember one time, when I was over at their place and had to get back to the city for work. It was getting pretty late when I got up to leave, and it had been snowing. She came down from her room when I was leaving, with an overcoat of her husband, saying I should take the coat with me, just in case. She knew that my car got gold those days, and thought of this, so wanted to keep me warm. She always made an effort to make sure I didn't feel less, because I made less money and came from a poorer background. All these little mom things she would do made me love her so much. Anyway, the reason I bring up my mother-in-law is because I think she was the reason her husband was accepting of me at the time. She passed away 4 years ago, and it somehow changed him. I think his love meter broke or something. He started acting like I'd somehow slighted him. All the time. Like one time my wife and I were bringing over some groceries and restocking everything, and I thought it would be nice to stay for the dinner and cook for him. While he was out for his evening walk, my wife and I prepared a nice dinner, and during dinner, he thanked my wife for it. She mentioned that I did most of the work for it, which caused him to give me a sour look, and he just stopped talking. Another time in September of 2016, we were staying at his place for the weekend because we were cooking the family dinner. In the early morning, my wife and I were sitting on the breakfast counter just starting our day, and we thought he was out because he was usually the first one up. I hit my wife on her leg over a stupid pun or something, and I guess he saw that because he came over and started yelling at me about not being raised right and being a woman beater. He said a lot of extremely toxic things to me before my younger sister-in-law came into the kitchen and practically dragged him out. My wife repeatedly said that it was a joke, but he wouldn't accept the explanation, saying she sticks up for me. Similarly, I remember one time, this was when his wife was still alive, I bought him a gift, and he straight up refused to accept it in front of the whole family, as mentioned in the first part. My wife's mother, brother, and his family, including sister-in-law, both sisters, their husbands, and the elder sister's kids were there. It was such a humiliating experience for me. I just wanted the man to accept me and not hate me all the time. I think my mother-in-law forced him to accept the gift after a few days and made him apologize to me. Our relationship was never perfect, but after my mother-in-law died, he completely changed. It was like his filter was gone. He would stay in his room a lot, only come out for his errands and walks. He wouldn't watch the games with me anymore, saying I would talk too much, and he wouldn't let me fix anything in the house, despite me practically living there and having done a lot of work in the house in the past. A popular theory among my friends was that he hated me because I was too close to his wife, but this really sounds absurd to me. She was a maternal figure in my life, and I can't for the life of me understand why that would piss him off. She was nice to everyone, just like my wife is nice to everyone too, to the point of it being a fault. My mother-in-law used to say that she had 4 sons, her son, 2 husbands of my wife's sisters, and me. So it's not like I was inappropriately close with the woman. I've discussed this with my wife a lot too, but she is always insistent that my relationship with her mother has nothing to do with it. My wife is the youngest daughter, so she treats her father with a lot of love and respect. Early on in our relationship, his behavior wasn't an issue, and by the time it became an issue, we were already too serious for me to break it off over this. Everyone else in her family likes me as far as I know, and I have been invited over by both of her sisters at multiple times for lunches and dinners. Really, everyone else treats me like I'm family. I've talked to my wife's eldest sister about why their father hates me, but she's always maintained that he doesn't hate me. She says he loves his youngest daughter a lot and has always been a difficult person to please. After my mother-in-law passed away, we were all heartbroken. A few days after her funeral, when everyone was starting to leave, my wife and I were going through some of the stuff that her mother left her. She started getting choked up about the fact that the house felt like it had passed away with her. We decided that we were going to take on the mantle of cooking for family dinners like her mom used to do, which is a pretty big responsibility considering the family is almost never all together, except maybe one holiday a year. Sometimes it would just be my father-in-law, brother-in-law, his family and us. It was actually really nice for a while. Everyone kept visiting once in a while, and the routine was nice, which made me really glad to have more time for family and not being harassed by my father-in-law all the time. At some point, I really felt like he was warming up to me. At that time, my wife and I started talking about marriage, and it just felt right. I don't think I was ever more sure about anything than about marrying my wife at that time. There was a brief moment before the engagement where she and I got into a fight, as mentioned in the first part, but things worked out nicely. We got engaged in May, and it just set things in motion. My wife is the youngest child in her family, so she got a lot of positive attention from her siblings, who had kept her mother's wedding accessories for her, which honestly was such a beautiful thing to do. Slowly, over the months, it became this big and happy event in our family, which finally unfolded in the winter of 2016 when we got married. A few months after we got married, my wife sat me down and asked me if it would be okay to move back in with her father to take care of him as he started to have some health issues. Now, I think that was the moment where I made the worst decision of my life and actually said yes. I was blinded by love, not only for my wife, but for her entire family. I really just thought about what would be best for everyone else. Now, a month after we moved in, my father-in-law already asked his son if he could come stay with them for a while. It felt clear to me that he just wanted to get out of the house because I was living there, but he claimed it had nothing to do with it. However, a few weeks later when he got back, his passive-aggressive bullshit started again. This time it was just constant nagging over all small, petty things. It really made me feel like I was a child that's unwanted in the house. In May 2017, we had a huge fight, and I decided I would move out again. I gave my wife a choice to either live with me or live with her father, which in turn made her have a fight with her father, and she decided she was going to move out with me because, in her own words, he would never accept me as his son. Now, our moving out messed up the whole family dinner tradition, as her father refused to come to our place for dinners. We couldn't afford to host the whole family in our small apartment, and it became a logistic nightmare. This prompted her brother to step up to take over our responsibilities, after which my father-in-law simply refused to even speak to me. To be very honest, I actually liked it this way, because it felt great to not be attacked all the time. However, as time moved on, I felt like my wife and her family started to grow feelings of resentment towards me because of this whole situation. Now, fast forward 2 years since we have moved out, and I don't attend family dinners with much regularity anymore. I've also gotten busier at work, so I've not been able to spend as much time with my wife during the weekdays. Her resentment towards me has grown a lot over these last 2 years, which is really making it a very difficult situation for me. She goes over to her brother's house every other weekend, and the other weekend is spent at her father's place where her brother's family and she get together for dinner. The only person that is still on my side is my older sister-in-law because she thinks her father has treated me badly. She has visited us twice over the last year, and it's the only time I've gotten any affection from my in-laws. It feels like up until 2 years ago, I had a huge family who all loved me, and now I'm getting more and more lonely by the month. I can't help but feel that the marriage has changed our lives for the worse. It's been more than 2 months since my wife and I have been intimate in our bedroom, and it's been a lot longer since we've had a date for ourselves. I am at a complete loss as to what I can do to improve things. Update 2, 2 months later. Some folks have messaged me asking for an update, so I thought I would post one. I have been reading a lot of relationship help books and tried to talk to my wife many times. However, the fact is that she and I just don't work as a couple anymore. I am no longer a priority in her life, and I am not okay with that. So, last month I decided to talk to my lawyer and initiate a divorce. It's been a really stressful time, but at this point I just want to look after myself and recover myself from this relationship. Update 3, 4 years later. So, after our divorce, I lost a lot of family and friends. I was very involved with her family, and losing them all at the same time, because we got divorced, made things difficult for me. I am an immigrant here, so I did not have many friends outside of my ex-wife's family. During the divorce process, the COVID lockdown started, and that completely ended all my relationships with her side of the family. I was really lonely here for a long time and tried to go on dates, but the dating culture is so different now than 15 years ago. I could not find a person I wanted to spend more time with, but I'm sure that it is partly my fault too. I have had one small fling, but it didn't really felt right, and that relationship faded away in 2021. Since then, I have stopped going on dates and even lost touch with some of my personal friends and acquaintances because of COVID. They are all family men now, so making time is a difficult thing. I saw my ex-wife a few times in the last 2 years, and we exchanged some quick words about well-being. Nothing substantial. I knew she lost her father due to COVID, and I told her I was sorry for her loss because he loved her very much. She also told me that she was dating a younger man, and it was going well. Now, surprisingly, 2 months ago I got a message from her saying she wanted to meet for lunch. During this lunch, she told me her relationship with the younger guy was no longer going well, and she was thinking of breaking up with him. We kept in touch over the last 2 months, and 12 days ago, she broke up with him. She told me part of the reason was that, after talking to me, she remembered how it was with me when we first started dating, and how it was not the same with her boyfriend. She and I have been talking a lot in the last few weeks. Since the breakup, the first thing she does after waking up every morning is message me, and 2 days ago, she called me at 7 in the morning, saying she was at my door with some food. I had been feeling ill, but didn't remember that I told her. But nonetheless, she had come with a lot of home-cooked food and soups, which she knows I like. It felt like we were back in time 10 years ago. It has all been a very confusing time since then. I am not sure what I feel right now, and start falling in love with her again. She pays me so much attention, which after years of loneliness feels so great. She keeps sending food, or bringing it herself, and last night she spent the night at my place because I was too ill to get up and clean after myself. Nothing happened between us, but at the same time, I think she wants to talk about us dating again. All the attention, the food, other gestures of love and caretaking are all starting to feel incredible. I am not sure who to talk to about this, and think I need to keep her away for a few days in order to be able to think clearly. It has been a long time since I have felt this good about myself, and a lot of our relationship problems stemmed from how her father acted towards me, so I keep thinking that maybe we could try again, and this time it will be better. Any advice or anyone who wants to talk to help me think here, I would really appreciate it. Update 4, 3 days later. As for the update, it is a mixed bag. On Saturday, she came over to talk about our relationship, what we both wanted, and what had gone wrong. She asked if she could speak first, to which I agreed. I took the time for her to say her part, and it was focused on her relationship with her whole family. She mentioned how important her father was to her, how involved everyone else was in her relationship with me, and she apologized for letting her family, and her father in particular, meddle in our marriage. One of the things which hurt me a lot was when she mentioned that her ex-boyfriend never wanted to be around her family and hated going to any family events. She said that's when she realized how much easier I had made things for her in our marriage. This was really hurtful to me, because I remember telling her in so many different ways and so many times that I was okay with her family's involvement, but that she needed to keep some distance between our relationship and her father. She said that one time, her father said something nasty directed at her ex-boyfriend, and after that time, he refused to be in the same room as him, to which I told her that I could fully understand that. I reminded her of the time when her father told me, after 5 years of our relationship, that he did not want to give me his blessing for asking her to marry me. She said that when we were still together, she was still young and inexperienced, and that after her mother had passed, she was scared of losing her father too, and anything I said about him was difficult for her. I remember one time when we were hosting the family dinner and her father said hurtful things about my cooking. I brought it up with her and one of her siblings, and she refused to even hear me out, even when her sister told her she should listen. Anyway, when we got talking about her father, the conversation kind of got away from me. We ended up talking about him for like an hour or two, and I think she simply wanted to get a lot of it off her chest. It was very emotional and exhausting, and afterwards I did not have the energy to continue talking. I really wish I had talked first, because I wanted to talk to her about our relationship problems, but we decided to have dinner first. She once again said how much she had missed cooking with me and missed being around each other. After making dinner together, we just sat eating and talking about the few times we had some time for ourselves when we were married. She mentioned how much she liked going on 2 road trips we took together after we got married. For context, we used to have a lot more time when we first started dating as we were still studying, but after getting jobs and having to take care of a house, it slowly diminished. After we finished dinner, I still felt too tired to continue our conversation, so we just kind of existed around each other for a little bit. When it was time to leave, she apologized to me that she had been such a selfish lover, and she told me it was a difficult thing for her to realize that she had ignored my needs in the marriage. She said that, if we would start dating again, she wanted us to see a relationship counselor together. I think it is a good idea to talk to someone who can help me explain my side of things to her, as I am not confident how helpful the conversation can be if it is just the two of us. She has a tendency to talk over me, or to agree with me, but not let me say my part. I want to talk to her about it too, but I think it's better if I wait until we have found some relationship counselor. In general, I think the outcome of the conversation was good, and I have decided that I want to ask her out on a date somewhere soon. I spent the morning looking through some of our old pictures together, and it was nice to remember the person she used to be, and I feel like yesterday I saw a little bit of that person in her again. Am I wrong to want to start something so soon? I know that I previously said that I would wait, but waiting for the sake of waiting seems pointless. I do want to take things slow as I want us to find a relationship counselor soon, but I am afraid I will lose her if I show no interest. Update 5. 4 months later. Hello everyone. I have been getting constant messages to make an update, so here you go. My ex-wife and I have reconnected over the last few months. About 2 months ago, she brought up how she wanted to officially give it another go, so we had a long talk about it. We talked about the past, in particular the state of our marriage towards the end, and how much of it was because of my father-in-law. She talked about her relationship with him quite a lot, and it was surprising to hear so much self-reflection from her about it. It honestly meant a lot to me that she decided to open up about it. She had struggled all her life about her father's shadow over her, and she acknowledged that it is a little late for the broken-up marriage, but that she now knows better. She brought up therapy for us as a couple again, and I told her we need to if we are going to start dating again. She asked if we would start dating again, so I guess it's official. However, we talked about keeping separate places for now, just for the convenience of it, and it allows us to give each other some space. We plan on taking things slower this time around, and she hasn't told any of her siblings yet. I get the feeling her family is not as close as they used to be when her parents were alive. There are no official family get-together events other than Christmas and Easter, which I feel is better for her, as it gives her more space to find herself in a way. So, yeah, we decided to make our relationship official, but I am at a loss about what the relationship is now. I keep calling her my ex-wife, but at the same time, she's also my girlfriend. I don't know if there is a word for it, but if so, please let me know. This whole situation is a new feeling, as there is familiarity in this relationship, but it is also very different from last time, as we are not so young and naive. We have found a couples therapist and have already gone to 3 therapy events. It is really helpful to have the therapist in our conversations, and it helps me to speak my mind without her talking over. She's getting better at listening to me and shares with me how she grew up, having to always listen to either her father or her older siblings, so with me, she felt like she had to talk the most. It makes sense when she explains it, but it's like I was the only one around her she could talk to, so she got in the habit of not listening as well. It really feels strange to be 2 adult people and having to learn how to talk all over again. I will admit that I had my doubts about couples therapy being able to help us, but I am really glad that I was wrong. Not everything is good news, however, and she had to get a court order against her ex for abuse. I don't think she's in acute danger, but she said I should not write details about it here. Also, I am still struggling with loneliness. I have started talking to more people at work and joined a small gaming group that I'm really happy about. There are a lot of good and kind people who wished me well, which I am really grateful for, and after a long time in my life, I feel positive about my future at the moment.